Yeah, I just thought I'd talk about life trajectory. I actually had written a title for this: life trajectory, marriage. What did I say? Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna talk about life in the context of getting married, having children, that sort of stuff, and my plans. People have questions because whenever I talk about wanting a large family, so 5 to 7 kids, I don't know what the upper limit is, to be honest. I say seven, but it could be eight. Who knows? I don't know what the upper limit is. We'll see. I might reach five and be like, yeah, that's enough. We'll see. But people, someone had just said like, good luck finding a woman that wants 5 kids, 5 to 7 kids, and I'm like, they definitely exist. That's definitely a thing. So a lot of girls will assume just because they don't want that the same is true for other women. No, some women actually like the idea of large families. I personally met girls that are into that idea. So believe it or not, they exist, and that's why large families exist to this day. And I also exist within the African context. I live in South Africa. By the way, Africa is not a country. You deal with a lot of like, no offense, but ignorant Americans. I think it's the education system, the way they're taught. I think some people don't know that Africa is not a country. It's a continent. It has multiple countries in it, and these countries are very, very different from each other. Very different. It's like Europe. Europe is a. When someone says, "I went to Europe," like, where, bitch? Where did you go? I went to Europe. As if you go to Europe, if you go to one place in Europe, you've been to all of Europe. It's like, no, like, Europe has different places. Where in Europe did you go? Same thing with Africa. Like, where in Africa? Because that matters. Because that will inform what kind of experience you have. Because it's not a uniform experience. It's not a uniform culture. There's different languages. There's different religions. There's different this. There's different that. So you have to understand that yeah, we're not a monolith. But one thing that's shared, that's quite common, is very high birth rate. Now, South Africa is quite modernized, westernized. So we have a very low birth rate compared to the rest of Africa. What's South Africa's fertility rate? It's very low compared to the rest of the continent. I think by 2030 we're going to fall below replacement rate. South Africa is a joke, man. When it comes to our fertility rate, we're a clown show. Fertility rate 2.34 births per woman. It's very sad. Nigeria is like 5.14. Imagine. So we've been declining since the 60s, and if you watch yesterday's video, I don't think that's a coincidence that the decline really started like from the 50s onwards. I don't think that's like a coincidence. We saw that around the world. But watch yesterday's video if you want my breakdown of that. You don't have to get into it now. But I'm trying to explain that I'm not originally from South Africa. I'm from Zimbabwe. I was born in Zimbabwe and we moved to South Africa when I was still a child. So I've been in South Africa for most of my life, but it's just a thing that with a lot of African people, they tend to have a lot of kids because it's part of the culture. We value children, and also children are seen as a help. So when the more children you have, the more they can help you in various ways, all this sort of stuff. They're not necessarily seen as a burden, as some people might view them. Some people view children as a burden. It's kind of like the inverse here, where it's like the more children I can have, the more opportunity I can have, because you never know who's going to be successful, and regardless, they can help you with work, they can help you with this, they can help you with that, and you just make life easier as opposed to harder, because it's very community focused. you're trying to build these communities to spread the burden of life. And yeah, it's just also just a cultural tradition and value of like children are the future, we like children, all these sort of things. What you see is that as a lot of African countries become more modernized in their thinking, they abandon these ethics, they abandon these values. You fall prey to the same cultural snobbery or chronological snobbery, as C.S. Lewis coined it, in which you look back at past traditions as obsolete, as unnecessary, and you just try to remove all these pillars that build your culture, and then your culture collapses, and your civilization dies, which is what we're seeing with so many other countries. But for now, the tradition is still very strong in terms of high birth rates. If you just look at most African countries, very high birth rates. Like I said, South Africa is a joke. We're still above replacement rate, which is very rare in the rest of the world. In fact, it's not non-existent. Well, that's not true. Well, the whole of Europe is below replacement rate. The whole of Europe, the whole of North America, much of South America, much of Asia. It's just the case as people become more quote-unquote educated. Put educated in inverted commas, because how are you educated but you're dying as a result of your education? Your civilization is dying out but you're educated. I think if you're truly educated, you keep yourselves alive, no? You know that it's a good thing to have children because they're the future. And your population is currency. Then truly smart people recognize that fact. And the educated ones, quote unquote, walk themselves to extinction. Because we're overpopulated, there's too many people, and children are a burden, and all these sort of things. Anyway, we don't want to rehash yesterday's topic. I kind of have already, but anyway. That's the reason why I want to have lots of kids. Well, that's not the reason why I want to have lots of kids. I just like the idea of having a large family. I think that would make me very happy. I can't wait to be a father. I can't wait to have my little babies and grow, watch them grow, help raise them, and teach them my values, all these sort of things, and have relationships with them. And they're all going to be unique, figuring out their personalities, their interests, their strengths, their weaknesses. Like just having a family, man, going on family vacations, sitting around the dinner table, just making memories. It's gonna be so fun, man. I'd like to play video games with my kids, watch movies with my kids, read to them, find out what are their talents and what are they good at. What are they gonna take off to me in terms of like the art stuff and whatnot. I'm very excited. I think it's gonna be so fun. It's a lot of work, you know. Kids are chaotic. They poop and they vomit and they pee and they do this, but when they're small at least, it's a lot of work and they're very loud and they cry. But I think those are very funny. They're very honest. Like so many parents talk about how the way you love your child is unlike any love you'll ever experience. I can't wait to experience that. They say it's the sort of love that just you can't describe it. Unless you have children, you'll never know. I can't go my life not knowing what that's like. There's just some people just walking around and there's this version of love they haven't unlocked and they'll never know what that's like. And I want to know what that's like. I want to experience the love I would have for my own children, and I can't wait. I can't wait to find out what that's like. I can't wait to be married, to love my wife in a way that you can only love your wife, and all that sort of stuff. So there's so much to look forward to when you talk about family, and I'm gearing up for that. You know, I talked about having a large family, and there's obviously so much financial pressure there to provide, because I want to be a provider. I want my wife to be dedicated to being a mother, to being a wife, so she's not a careerist. I don't find that attractive. I'm not really into that. I'm not really looking for that, to be honest. I feel like the more I just think about it, the more I get settled into this idea that I think I do want a woman that's just focused on being a stay-at-home mother, focused on like her thing is I want to be a wife, I want to be a mother. That doesn't mean she doesn't have anything else going on. You know, she might have arts that she works on. She might have some online stuff she does, but really and truly, like she's committed to just full time motherhood, wifehood. I don't know what the word for that would be. Regardless, that's my desire. And they exist, by the way. These women exist. Because the pushback I always get is that I'm a misogynist because I want that. You know, you don't take people like that seriously. It's so ridiculous. But yeah, people just need to understand like these women definitely exist. Like I promise you, they exist, and they're not weird or like stupid or like whatever you might think of them. That's a legitimate desire, and I think it's an important one because we need mothers. We need women that are dedicated to being mothers because our species is dying. Talk about plummeting birth rates. So yeah, when you talk about providing for a family at large, it takes time to get to a point where you're able to comfortably do that. So for me, I'm okay with waiting, man. I'm okay with just working hard and building and building and building. Hopefully sooner rather than later, I'll get to a point where I can comfortably support a family of 7 in a decent neighborhood. I want to homeschool my kids. I don't want to send them to public school or private school or anything like that. You never know. I might find like a cool Montessori school or some cool like private institution that does things in an interesting way. But the reason why I want to homeschool my kids is because I'll have more time with them. We can travel together. Like your schedule will be very flexible. So if I'm like, today we're going here, they can just come with. They don't have to check into school and all that sort of stuff. Now I'm not interested in that. And then we can just be a very tight knit family, spend time together. Because I feel like a lot of parents, their children's entire childhood goes by outside of the home. You're raised in public school, you're raised in these other institutions, other people are raising your children. If you're not careful, some parents put in an effort to make sure that they know what's going on with their kids, to make sure they're close to their kids, and shout out to y'all if you're doing a good job with it. But a lot of parents, they kind of just send their kids out, and their kids are raised by a lot of other people besides them. And then they wonder why they're distant, like they don't have a good relationship. You know, you might have a decent relationship, you might love your kids and they might love you. You don't know them. You don't know them that well. You don't know what they're into. You don't know a lot of important things that are going on behind the scenes. And they'll tell a lot of people a lot of things before they tell you. I just don't like the idea of that. When I have my children, man, I want them to tell me a lot. Tell me everything? Yeah, tell me everything. Oh, well, keep some things to yourself. But like, the important stuff. Tell me the important stuff. Like, I want us to be close, like genuinely close. That doesn't mean necessarily I'm going to be their friend. I think that's a bad parenting strategy when you just want to be your kid's friend. Like, no, I'll be their father. I'll look him up, I'll let them know. And you have to lay down the rules and make sure that they have a balanced perspective on things, and you have to be willing to be kind to them, but also when it's time to discipline them, you discipline them. So I don't know if I'll necessarily be their friend, but they feel safe around me. They feel like they can open up. We have a lot of fun together. We're very close, and they actually like hanging around me. They like being with me. I like being around my mom. I like talking to my mom. I like my mom as a person. So shout out my mama. She's a great lady. And I want all my kids to feel the same way about me, if not more. Because my mom, we have certain gaps. Not It's just called like she's just from a different generation, so I feel like they're just gonna relate to each other on, and that might be the case with me and my kids as well. But I'd like to foster a more familiar bond with them, not necessarily a friendship, but me and my mom have a great relationship, but there are rooms for improvement. So there is room for improvement. So when I think about my relationship with my kids, it would be like what I have with my mom, but just with some slight tweaks, just to be slightly better. But if it's anything like what I have with my mom, it'd be great, man. That would be a great relationship, honestly. My mom is great. She did a good job of making us like her. She did a great job. But yeah, definitely the financial part is important. So when you think about, okay, like, how long will it take to get to a point where I can provide for a family at large? Who knows? It's hard to say. But I've given myself a 10-year window. 10 years to figure that out. And then once I feel like I'm financially ready for that, I'll go all in finding someone. And I believe I'll find someone relatively easy. Because if I work on my finances, if I work on my confidence, if I work on my body, if I work on my networking, all that sort of stuff, I think just I'll be such a well-integrated individual, well-integrated man, that I'll have options. I'll have options. So, yeah, when I give myself time, I'm not rushing to find something right now. I can then say, okay, you have all this time to work on yourself. You're good, brother. So that's the plan. Work hard. After this, I need to do some exercise. I was thinking of skimping out on that. I want to be jacked, man. I want to be jacked. And it's an important part of being jacked is being consistent in your exercise routine. So I'm gonna do that. So yeah, man. This is very random, but I released my music pack, 7 songs. So go check that out. The link is in the description if you want to hear my new music. Anyway, and then when the time comes to meet a woman, yeah, it's just about talking about your values. So whichever girl I meet, I'm just gonna be like, yo, this is what I believe, this is what I want out. So we talk about the fact that I want a lot of kids. Do you want a lot of kids? By the way, even a lot of these girls, I would never have that many kids. That's too much. I think if you meet a man that you're really, really into, and he's like, I need you to have my babies, like, most of these girls are gonna fold, bro. These girls are gonna fold. If you're in love with him, you're really into him, you can give him what he wants. I'm telling you right now. Like, obviously, pregnancy is not easy. But yeah, I'm telling you, if you're really into him, you're gonna give him what he wants. If he's like, because look, there's a difference, right? And I think this is so important for men in particular to understand. It's so important for you to take charge, to lead, to be someone that she can look up to, and not this 50-50 stuff is a scam, bro. I don't believe in this thing of being equals and whatnot. You're supposed to be the head of the household, the head of the relationship, lead. So I think when you capitulate to them and you play this game of like being their sub, because that's what happens, right? Because the reason why I say the 50-50 thing is a scam. There's no such thing as a relationship that's 50-50. There's always someone who's in charge in any dynamic. Remember in like school when you used to do group projects, where they split you into like groups and you all have to work on it together? There's always someone who leads. There's always someone who's like more outspoken, makes most of the decisions, directs the whole crew. Even if no one was appointed leader, someone always ends up being the leader. That's what happens with teams. Someone must lead. Someone must say this is the direction we're going in. It's necessary because when you're dealing with multiple people, that decisions have to be made. Like you have to, in order for you to function properly as a team, like someone has to say, like, we're doing this. Because if everyone wants to go this way and this way and this way and this way, it's going to be chaotic and nothing's going to get done. Someone has to say no. So in a relationship, there's always someone who has more sway than the other. There's always someone who has more sway. People like to convince themselves, no, it's 50-50. No, it's not. When push comes to shove, someone's making the decisions. Who is it? Someone's making more decisions than the other. That's the person that's in charge. So don't get fooled by these girls, man, when they talk about 50-50. 50-50 means they want to lead. That's what that means. They want to be in charge. And I've just seen that like they don't respect you for it. When you give them what they want, they don't like that, and they respect you less for it. And I think a lot of sexless marriages develop because of that reason. I think sexlessness in a marriage becomes a thing because like the girl just doesn't respect the guy she's with. She's not attracted to him. He's not masculine enough. Sometimes she earns more money than him. It just complicates things. A lot of the time, it's really like a masculinity problem is an authority problem because such a big part of the sexual attraction between men and women is submission and domination. That's a real thing. That's part of the spiciness of sex between men and women is the sexual attraction between men and women is that submission and domination factor. That's why so many girls are into like the whole 50 Shades of Grey stuff, and that type of story sells so well amongst women because that there's something innate that those sort of within women that those sort of stories speak to. And I think as dudes we just need to stop apologizing for that and lean into it because it's part of our desire to lead as well. So for me, I'm genuinely convinced that a lot of these girls are just like, oh, I'll never have that many children. I think if you meet the right guy that you're really into and he's like fully masculine and you respect him, you look up to him, you actually view him as a leader. If he says he wants a lot of children, you'll give them to him. I believe that. You will cave. You'll be in love. You don't want to deny it. And it'll be a privilege to carry his children as well. So I think that's the mindset I have, and that's what I'm working towards, just building myself to become that for some women out there. Work on my confidence, work on my skill set, work on every aspect of my life to earn that. I think it's a privilege to be that for someone, for a woman to look up to you in that way. I think it's such an honor, and I don't take it for granted. So I've just given myself time to develop into that sort of individual. And yeah, there'll be a woman out there that definitely wants to carry my children, carry my spawn. And we can do our part in populating the earth. Oh yeah. I can't wait to be old as hell, lying on my deathbed surrounded by my children and my grandchildren. It's gonna be a packed room. Some people will never experience that because they disregarded the value of family, which is unfortunate. Not me though. Not me. Anywho, that's what I'm working towards. That's what I want. Hope that answers some people's questions.